Okay guys, so today is going to be the second lesson of Unit 9. We're going to be talking about combined variation, which is where we're going to be combining a lot of inversely and jointly and things like that. So today's key to being successful with this lesson is like the vocabulary and the keyword. This lesson is called combined variation, and I give you a little table here that is kind of going to be like your little cheat sheet in a way. So the first one we have Z varies jointly with X and Y, right? So Z is going to vary jointly. So the keyword right here is the word jointly, okay? So it's going to vary jointly with X and Y, meaning that you're going to get the Z, right? So Z varies. So varies in this situation is going to be like an equal sign because you get Z varies jointly with X and Y. So that means X and Y get multiplied with K. You're always going to include the constant K. Okay, so in every single one of these, you should always include the constant K. Okay, so every single one of these equations should have the constant K. Okay, the second one, you get Z varies, right? So Z varies jointly, okay? So that means that Z equals 2, because that's what varies means. Varies means equals 2. So Z equals 2 jointly with X and Y. So jointly means to multiply the X and the Y. So that's what happens, X and Y, and then always include the constant. And then inversely here is going to mean division. So you're going to divide the whole thing with W. So therefore that's how they got this equation right here. So once again, Z varies, so equal sign, directly with X and Y. Directly means to multiply. Directly with X. That means that K is going to be multiplied with X. So K times X. And then inversely means division with the product of W, Y. Product here means multiplication again. So you multiply the W and the Y in the denominator. And that's how they got that equation. So let's go into today's problem. Okay, so example number 1. Determining a joint variation. Suppose Y varies jointly. So here, Y varies. Okay, remember varies is the equal sign. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. Y varies equal to jointly. Here means multiplication. So what are we going to multiply? X and Z. But remember, always include K. So here we're going to get K, because we always have to include the K constant, times X and Z. Okay. And, okay, so then this is our equation. Y equals K times X times Z. Now we have to figure this out. And Y equals to 12 when X equals to 5 and Z equals to 2. Okay, so here they're telling me Y is 12, X is 5, and Z is 2. Okay, so now what we got to do is we got to find Y. Okay, so this is my second piece of information. So for the second piece of information, I don't know what Y is when X equals to 10 and Z equals to -3. Okay, so if you notice here, they gave us for the first piece of information, which is this here, Y, X, and Z. The only thing that we're missing is this K. So we have to use these three variables to find K. Once we find K, we can use K here, and then we can use that to find our missing piece, which is Y. Go ahead and plug those in. So Y equals to 12, which is going to equal to K times X, which is 5, times Z, which is 2. Well, what's 5 times 2? 10. So that's K times 10. I have to solve for K. We're going to divide by 10 to both sides. So K is going to equal to 12 divided by 10, or you can divide both of those by 2 and you get 6/5. So that means K is 6/5. 6 over 5. So now that we know k, we can go ahead and plug it in to solve for y. So y is going to equal k, which is 6 over 5, times x, which is 10, times z, which is negative 3. And that's because it's a negative. I'm going to put it in parentheses so I don't confuse it for subtraction. So we can go ahead and multiply all of these. I'm going to multiply 10 times negative 3, which is then negative 30. And when you multiply a whole number times a fraction, you can multiply it times the numerator. So negative 30 times 6 is negative 180. Divide that by 5, and you get negative 36. So that right there would be your answer for that one. Moving on to example number 2. Okay, so for this one, determining a combined variation. Okay, so we can go back here, combined variation, where we're combining jointly and inversely. Okay, so that's what happens when you're doing combined. You're going to have more than one. This is literally just one variation. Here we're going to have multiple variations. So x varies directly. Okay, so x varies, so that means y equals 2. So x is going to equal to directly with the square of y. Well, square, we know, is like a power of 2, right? So whenever you see square, that means power of 2. Okay? So what's going to be squared? The y, right? They're telling you the square of y. Okay, so that means that don't forget your constant k. So k is going to be multiplied times y squared. And inversely, and we know the word inversely here means division, so that means that at this point I need to divide inversely with what? Well, it's going to be inversely with the cube root of z. Remember, this is a root, so that means that we have to have a root of some sort. Now, cube means 3, so that's a cube root. So we're going to inversely divide this by the cube root of z. Okay, question says write a model that represents this. Well, we already wrote the model. It's right here, so that means that this right here is my answer. So you guys have to read the question carefully, because I might ask you to solve for something, or I might ask you to just give me the equation, right? So example number 3, modeling a combined variation. So yes, are you gonna have word problems with this? Yes. Should you expect to see a word problem on the quiz? Yes. Okay, so the time t, so read this very, very carefully, guys. The time t that it takes to frame a house varies directly. So here I see the word varies, which means equal sign. So t equals to directly, okay? So we're going to multiply something with the size of the house, s. So what is going to be vary directly? The size of the house, s right here, in square feet. So once again, don't forget your constant k. And these right here are just units of measurement, guys, so they don't mean to put it to the power of 2. So be careful with that, okay? And inversely, so here we have the word inversely, which means division. So we're going to divide inversely with the number of framers n. The number of framers n working on the job. So what's going to be divided? The number of framers n, okay? If 3 framers can complete, so let me see, t is time, k is the constant, s is the size of house, and n is the number of framers. Okay, so if 3 framers, okay, so that means that n is 3 framers, can complete a 2,500 square foot house, oops, I put an extra 0, cross it off, in 6 days, so all of this is important information, so 6 days. Then how long will it take 6 framers Okay, so that's the second piece of information. So 6 framers to complete a 4,500 square foot house. So these are 2-step problems, guys, because you're going to have the first piece of information, which is this one, and then the second piece of information, which is this one right here. Okay, and once again, know that you still don't know what K is. Okay, so basically the first step is to 1, always solve for K. That will be your first step, and then the second step right there is going to be to solve for missing variable in the second half. Okay? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use the first piece of information to solve for K. Once we solve for K, we'll know what this is here, and then we can solve for T. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. So T is 6. That equals to K times S, and S is 2,500 divided by N, which is 3. So now we have to go ahead and we have to solve for K. So I'm going to go ahead and we do SWBAT for this. Okay, so if you're still wondering how to solve for this, just use SWBAT. Which means I need to get rid of this division. How do you get rid of division? Well, you get rid of division with multiplication. So what I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay, well, what's 3 times 6? It's 18. So that's going to equal K times 2,500. Now we go ahead and get rid of multiplication. So we divide. Right, and what I do to one side, I do to the other. So that means that K here is going to equal to 0.0072. So K is 0.0072. So now I can go ahead and do the second part of this equation, part 2. Okay, and solve for T. So now we're going to get T equals to K, which is 0.0072 times S. The S now is 4,500 divided by N. Well, what's N? N is 6. Okay, so you can go ahead and put all of this in your calculator. If you're going to do that, make sure to put parentheses on the numerator, and then T is going to equal to 5.4. So what is T? T is time. So that means that it will take 6 framers 5.4 days to frame a 4,500 square foot house. And that is the end of today's lesson.